Alright guys, so take a look at this bike. This is another BMW that I'm actually taking out. So this one's pretty interesting. This is the BMW S1000 Xr. So if you remember on one of my last videos, I actually took a sport bike out. My very first sport bike. It was crazy. It was the S1000 Xr. And on this one, apparently it's like more of a true sport bike where it's really leaned over. You see the handlebars are really low. They also have this one, which has the same engine in it, but it's a little bit more upright. You see the bars. This is the S1000R with just one single R. And then the one I want to demo today has the same exact engine as these other sports bikes, except it's detuned, which I'm guessing it's the shifting is a little bit different. And it's like a sport touring bike where it's more of an upright position, but it still has the same engine as your sport bikes. So this would be this would be pretty interesting. Look at that kickstand. That's like a cast aluminum kickstand. I don't think I've ever seen cast aluminum kickstand. So he said the keys were in this thing. All right, so to turn it on, you hit the little power button like you do on all your BMWs. You get the little screen booting up, pull in the clutch, and turn it on. You just hit this button right here. Sounds like a sport bike. This is kind of interesting. Take a look at this. The red line is 6,000 RPM. I was actually looking up the specs on the S1000 Xr, and it said it was like 200 horsepower at 13,000 RPM. I don't know if you can get to 13,000. It looks like you can go all the way up to over 12,000 on this, which is pretty wild. So you actually have different modes: rain, road mode, dynamic, and dynamic pro. I'm actually going to go to road mode. Maybe road mode will be a little bit more forgiving. And the first thing that's kind of weird, look at these. Look at oh, you can actually spin them down. I was like, they seem like they're way up there. These mirrors are kind of crazy. I wish they were, all these BMW mirrors, I wish they were kind of like more convex where you could see more kind of behind you. But that's kind of weird, these mirrors. And I don't think the windscreen's adjustable. Has a pretty big, weird looking tank. So the pegs, spring-loaded pegs again, which is awesome. My legs go right up under here, no problem. Really comfortable getting my legs right up under here. As far as the stance on this, maybe 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches forward from a complete vertical. So pretty straight up. Kind of the weird thing is the seat. Ooh, wow. Oh, wow. So this is kind of interesting. I just got off of what was it? That really huge big one had a completely different friction zone. This is like you just kind of this is weird. So the friction zone in the clutch is so different from bike to bike, even within the same manufacturer. This one is, as soon as you start letting out your clutch, you're in the friction zone, like right there. And then the last one I was on, you had to let the clutch out like 2.5 inches before you even hit the friction zone. And then the friction zone was like really short. This one, it seems like the friction zone is really short too. The friction zone and the clutch. So you just let it out maybe like 1.5 inches and you're already all the way out in the clutch. And it's like right there. Wow. This got some pickup and go. So yeah, this is kind of my kind of bike right here. Wow, it's really has a really good suspension on this one, especially compared to that sport bike I was on. And I feel like I'm in more control since I'm not leaned way over like I was on that 1000 Double R. That thing was crazy. Yeah, this is pretty nice suspension. You can feel some of the road, a little bit more road than you'd feel kind of on some of the bigger ones, like the big baggers, but not too bad. Still pretty firm. You can definitely tell it's most of the power is at higher RPM when you really get it up there. It's different than like your Harleys where you get most of the power at the low end. Like when you first get on the gas on a Harley, you get a lot of the power. And on this one, you gotta wait till you kind of get up there to higher RPMs before it really kicks in. But I feel really confident, really stable. Turns, so it seems like really super nimble. It's kind of interesting. So let's see how it does on the highway. Wow. All right, so I am in top gear. Let's see. A lot of wind. My helmet is in a lot of wind. Really pretty buzzy. I wish I had another gear. 4,000 RPM going 62. Yeah, the handlebars are pretty buzzy just because I'm wound out so high at 62. That's pretty wild. Let's see if we can get a little faster. 70. Pretty stable at 70. A little, quite a bit buzzy, I'd say, in the handlebars. And up there with your, the other one that, let's see if I can get out of this wind. Wow, that's like serious wind on the helmet. Super nice suspension. I went over those bumps that almost all the bikes have been struggling on. Oh, let's see. You know what? Let's see. Let's see if I can get over here. So yeah, this seemed like it had a better suspension than even some of the bigger baggers going over those bumps at high speeds. Oh, I killed it. That friction zone is so small. Wow, that's the first time I stalled a bike on a test drive. That's crazy. The friction zone's so small, you just let it out like an inch and you're already all the way out, which is completely different. Yeah, so this thing was super buzzy on the highway. The handlebars were vibrating like a vibrator, going about 70 miles an hour, which is kind of crazy. I'd say the only other bike that was really that buzzy was the Honda African Twin. Super buzzy on the highway, which kind of surprised me. On this, I think it's because we're just going, I think we were at 4,000 RPM. It's just the way it's geared. That was like all engine vibration, buzziness from the engine vibration. I almost wish this was geared a little bit different, to where it was more of a, well, of course it's not really like a cruiser, it's like a sport touring, so they kind of geared it like off-road. But it does have a really good, like really spongy suspension. You can, it's kind of funny because you hit the smaller bumps and you can feel them. It's like a firm suspension, but if you hit something big, it kind of gives like it's really super spongy, which is pretty wild. Slow speed is not, if you get down to like super slow speed, it's not that stable. It's on super slow speed. You know, if you get down to like a really slow walking, just like creeping along a couple miles an hour, seems like it kind of wants to tip over a little bit. But if you're going like, you know, 10 miles an hour, usually most bikes are stable at slow speeds, but the super slow speed usually depends on the kind of if the bike is kind of top heavy and the thickness of the front tire. There's a lot of stuff that really goes into it. So going around corners seems pretty stable. Got a lot of power, a lot of get up and go. This is a really fun bike. Brakes are really super good. Well, the front brakes are really good. The back brakes, you gotta really get on the back brake. I think the back brakes could be a little bit better on this one. The front ones are really super sensitive and really good. You just barely touch the brakes. It almost has not quite like sport bike brakes. Let's see, this friction zone kind of kills me. It's like, I don't know if you could pick up the front end on this one. It's pretty close. Yeah, this bike is really meant to be kind of revved down. Oh yeah, the bumps are still pretty firm. It handles big bumps at high speeds really good, but the slow ones it's still pretty firm. Pretty nice. I would say this is up there with that GS 850. Pretty close. The GS 850 seemed like it wasn't buzzy at all on the highway, which is kind of interesting comparing it to this one. This one, I think this one, well, this one definitely has more power. I'd say this one's not quite as stable, going really super slow speeds. So I'm here driving through the parking lot of Denver BMW, and I think this is going to be the last bike. Of course, I'm not really posting these on YouTube in order, so just kind of randomly posting. So I'm going through, I think I went through 6 different bikes. They said I could go through that. They said I could actually take the other one that's like a slightly more upright sport bike, which is the single R. I think I want to pass on that one because it's so close to the double R. It just has more of a kind of more of an upright stance to it. This is a pretty nice bike. So you definitely have wow, it's really easy to get into neutral. Well, this is kind of interesting. Take a look at that. Now it says, I don't know if that was my maximum RPM going up to 10.5. I don't know why it's red. That's kind of interesting. I was really winding this thing out, and it really kind of looks like you can adjust the shocks here too, which I didn't. Another thing that's interesting is you can hear there's a cooling fan kind of whining a little bit. The other weird thing is when you shut off the engine, you would think the cooling fan would actually stay on like it does on my Porsche. I actually have a Porsche Cayenne. You turn it off and then the cooling fan stays on for like 30 seconds. That's a pretty awesome bike. Pretty cool. A lot of power. S1000. Alright guys, so there you have it. That is the BMW S1000 Xr. That is a 2021. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.